What's up, everybody? It's another Wednesday, so that's another episode of Beyond Grit with Robert Young. My name is Kara Shelton, and I am Rob's assistant, and I'm doing a quick intro because our special guest for this week is none other than Rob himself. If you're new to the show, and if you didn't catch the name, Robert's usually the host, but last week we had Jimmy Kantor on the show talking about his For Joss Fund, which is an amazing organization that raises money to provide outlets for families with newborn babies to help prevent SIDS. That episode was really amazing. It was gripping. Jimmy is a good guy, personal friend. So we surprised Rob, and at the end of last week's episode, here's what happened.
Hang on, don't hit stop yet. You don't know this.
Okay.
But I set up with Kara that I'm going to interview you now.
Really?
So sneaky, right? Yeah, so Jimmy got a chance to be host for a day, and he did a really good job. I was really impressed by the conversation. Nice job, fellas. And it was great to finally hear Rob's story. He loves to showcase other people. He believes everyone is special and has a purpose and has a story to tell, and we feel the same way about him. So just want to throw it out there that Rob is the best boss in the world, and I'm very grateful to work for him, and I'm glad to finally hear his story. So I'll stop talking now so you can enjoy the show. As Rob says, grab a cup of coffee or cup of tea, maybe a whiskey or something stronger, maybe. I don't know. Enjoy the show.
It's welcome to Beyond Grit podcast. This is your fake host, Jimmy Kantor.
Wow.
I think it's time for Rob to tell some of his story because I think he has an amazing story that he downplays a lot. And I'm not sure I know all of it either.
Okay.
But I think it is well worth telling how you ended up, in Charlotte, a very successful realtor with a podcast. And there's a lot on how you get there. Especially since you like to talk about Beyond Grit, it's not all easy.
No.
So it's everything's a challenge.
Wow.
And I think yours is a good story. So you started out in Michigan.
Right.
Graduated high school. And what happened?
I started out in Michigan, lived there for 38 years, graduated high school. At that point, I wasn't going to college. I decided, or I thought that the path for me, I was going to work for my dad, and we were going to clean windows, and that was going to be our thing. Even though I could not stand cleaning windows, but I felt at that point, that was it. I didn't have any idea. Everybody else was going to college and had their life figured out. I didn't.
So why no college? Like you seem like you were very set on no college.
I don't know if I was set on no college. I don't feel like my parents felt it was that important.
Okay.
They didn't go to college. My dad didn't go to college. I don't think it was one of those that it was very important. And if I did want to go, they were like, well, you're going to pay for it. And at 19, I was like, I don't know. And this was before the internet. This was before the internet. And I didn't know what to do.
There was no cell phones. There wasn't a computer in your pocket walking around at the time.
No. So I had no idea.
Right.
So there was no, this is what you're doing. You're going to college. Kind of like with our kids, you're going to college.
Right.
So that's why I didn't go.
Okay. So window washing business. You're going into business with your family.
Yep. My dad came to me. I was 19 years old. And I remember I was standing on the driveway outside of our house when we still live in Michigan. And he said, and he was young, and he had this business. He was so stressed with the business that he was actually in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, and it was all stress driven with this business. And I think he wanted to get away, and he said, hey, we can move to Florida and we'll go into business together. And I was like, okay, I still don't want to clean windows, but I'd rather do it in Florida than here in Michigan. So I said, yeah, let's go. We'll go to Florida. And to this day, I still feel horrible about it because he sold his business, uprooted his family to move to Florida and go into business with his son, right? So that's like a proud dad moment, right? And I was the mentality of a 19-year-old where I was like, well, we'll get through it and it'll be okay. Instead of saying, no, I don't want to do that. And no, I don't want to do this. But, I wasn't at that point in my life,
right,
to be able to stand up to him. But it took moving there. Like I said, he uprooted his family. He's starting over. And 6 months into it, I finally woke up one day and I was like, no, I'm done. So now you have this son that says, nope, I'm done out of the blue. And a week later, I was back in Michigan.
So that's pretty amazing. So from wake up and saying I'm done to back in Michigan is a 1 week.
Probably a 1 week. I mean, I didn't even give him a 2 week notice.
Wow.
And I think it was, and I tried to be careful with Robert and with my kids. And I know that it's one side is parenting and the other side is trying to give advice, but not being overbearing, not being to where they feel like they don't have a choice. So I never felt like I really had a choice. This was what I was going to do.
No choice to go to Florida. It was
no choice to clean windows. Like, this is what you're going to do. Like, there was nothing else out there except for go maybe into the military. Right. And at this point, the fire department wasn't even on my radar.
Right. Okay.
It was a little bit, but yeah, it was like a week. Man, I made that decision and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. And it was the best decision I ever made for life because I felt like I had power. Like, if I could have that tough conversation with my dad and through all that, I could pretty much have most any conversation.
Right.
Now, so I moved back to Michigan. I went to work for my uncle.
Hang on. Okay. We're going fast. So, I mean, that's a pretty quick turnaround, both mentally and like physically that's a great conviction to say, I'm done cleaning windows. There was no like, I'm going to stay in Florida and I'll keep helping clean windows while I figure this out and do what I want to do. You felt the conviction enough that I needed to get back to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what that was? Like, did you know you needed from a business standpoint, I don't want to take the feelings of your father out of this, but from like a business standpoint, did you know, like, I needed a clean break? I'm never going to make my own name if I don't, like, I'm speculating. I don't know what those answers are.
No, I don't think it was a clean break for business wise. I think it was, I needed a clean break at that point in my life from them.
Okay.
I needed to be me and I needed to figure out how to be me. And so it had to be a clean break. And the only reason it was back up in Michigan is because I knew Michigan. And I kind of had friends back there and I knew
you had some sort of support group,
but that was it.
If you think about it, it's a time for a lot of people too, in that same realm, whether they go to college, they need that break from their parents.
Right. And I feel like that's what Robert's getting right now. And he needed that break.
Right.
He needed to get away. And I'm sure Audrey needed to get away. And that's good. And you've got to let them get away.
They got to find their voice.
They got to find their way.
Yes.
So that's how I made it back up.
Okay. So back to Michigan, you're working now for your uncle.
Mm-hmm.
What does he do?
He bought my dad's business, cleaning
so
windows.
You're back to cleaning windows.
But that's all I knew. I was like, well, I've got to make some money.
So do you have any tips on cleaning windows? Like,
yeah, hire it out. That's my biggest tip. But I'm going to throw another thing in there.
Okay.
I was married. I got married.
Okay. Yes.
So I got married.
Yes.
During this time
I knew that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we're, both of us are moving. So I brought her This is all of this stems from not stepping up and saying what you want.
Correct.
So I really knew I didn't want to get married, but it was already, the wheels were already in motion. And looking back at my ex's parents, they would have been thrilled if we would have came to them and said, I know that you have all this money in and you've got deposits and this and that. This isn't right. And I think we're going to cut. We're not going to get married. To where at 19 and your feeble brain was saying they're going to be so disappointed in us. And I think that what it comes down to, that you didn't want to disappoint people. I don't want to disappoint them.
That happens to this day.
Yeah.
With a lot of people, they're not able to say no,
Yeah. Yeah. And so I moved back to Michigan.
Okay.
Started cleaning windows.
Started cleaning windows.
And then I knew that was temporary. I ended up meeting some friends, and their dad owned an electrical company and a communication. So they put in low voltage wiring for phone systems, fiber optic cabling, and things like that.
And this is all Detroit.
This is all in Detroit.
Yep.
So I ended up getting a job there, $7.71 an hour starting.
Awesome.
And I quit the window cleaning business. And all of this, I was 19 years old. And when I left to come up to Michigan, I didn't ask to stay at anybody's house. I didn't ask to stay with family. We got our own apartment. We paid bills and we had car payments and all this stuff. So I didn't leave and then become a burden on people.
Sure.
I worked. Sometimes I had 3 jobs just to work and pay the bills. And I still didn't, the fire department was still kind of like twinkling back there. But my ex, she's like, no, you're not going to be a fireman. Firemen get hurt.
Right.
So they do.
Right. And
so I was like, okay, I don't want to disappoint you. Okay. I'll let you make the decision for me. And finally, we separated. And when I met Nicole, that's when everything started happening.
For those of you who don't know, Nicole is Robert's lovely wife to this day.
To this day. Coming up on 25 years anniversary this year. Big year this year.
Big year.
But I found that person that supported me and still does. And I support her. And that's when it was like, I really want to do this. I want to work on the fire department. I'll do it. Okay. So, and everything comes with a cost. So I was working the day job. I got on a volunteer fire department. You had to go through the fire academy. That was at night. So I'd study and go and do my things at night. I had to get my EMT license. And then from there, I had to get my paramedic license. And that was, again, going at night, 3 times a week. And then on the weekends and passing. And then it just started rolling. And then all of a sudden, I was working one job at the communications, the electric company, and working towards becoming a fireman.
So working towards becoming a fireman, what was the biggest challenge with Fireman Academy, Fireman School? I don't know what the.
Yeah, at the fire academy was fun. It was something new. It was something that I enjoyed.
Right.
The challenge at that point in the career was getting on a department. So that was the hard part.
Okay, so explain that to me. You're at a school that might service.
We had probably at this school, there was probably 50 of us.
Okay.
In class. Most of us were on volunteer departments.
Okay.
And so the area that I lived in, most of the departments there were voluntary. And then once you moved, you started going to different areas in different counties, and they became full-time fire departments. The challenge was, one, like I said, we were before the internet. So I would go to the Barnes and Nobles and the bookstores, and I would purchase all those books on taking tests and tests and tests. And then you would take the test, and what was hard? Well, the math portion was hard, so I would buy a book and study all the math on there and just do it every single day and go over it and over. And I remember I kept a list because I would call the cities and ask them when they're hiring, because at that point they only hire every 2 years. So you had one chance, to hit it, or you're waiting 2 years to get on whatever department. Some departments were better than others. And it took by the third hit, I got on the department that I wanted to be on.
That's amazing to me. I would have assumed, obviously ignorantly, that you go to the fire academy sort of knowing where you're going to work if you pass. That this department is sponsoring me, and as soon as I get through fire academy, I've got a spot there.
So they work differently. Charlotte and in the bigger cities, they run their own fire academy. Okay. So in Charlotte, they hire you, and this is the same with Detroit. They hire you, you come on, and you're a trialman. So you go through the fire academy, and you have to pass the fire academy. And then from the fire academy, then you start going on shift. And on shift, you're still on probation. So typically it's a full year that you're on probation. Once you get off probation, then you become a firefighter. And these were not easy jobs to get. I don't think they're easier now than they were when I was testing. And sometimes there was 300 people in there for a handful of positions over 2 years. And this is where you have to have some grit and determination, because I didn't go out there and crush it my very first time. I went out there, and I remember I interviewed, and I took the test, and the test was okay. And then I interviewed, and I just had the worst interview ever. I knew as it was going on, I couldn't shut up. I was just talking. And I probably was third from the bottom of the list. And then I would test some more and get better and better and better and better. 2 years later, same department that I was third from the bottom, I was number 2 on the list. I crushed it. Right. And then finally the department that I got hired there. I worked there for about a year. And then the department that I wanted to be on, I finally tested there, and I was number 1 on the list. So the fight was in me. Right. I just needed to put it in motion.
And that takes amazing amount of dedication. Talk about going through a process that can make you want to quit at every turn. Mm-hmm. To know you're not guaranteed anything, but you have to go through this pretty rigorous process and then continue to go through it. That's dedication to your trade, knowing that's not deciding you want to not watch Windows and be gone in a week. That's some dedication and some commitment.
Yeah, and you don't look at it, you don't notice it when you're going through it. You're just going through it. Right. And there's a lot of people. Like I said, when you're testing with 300-400 people, there is 85% of those guys on there and gals that don't get it, that put all this work in. Maybe they didn't put enough work in, but they didn't get on the job. Right. And then you have a handful that did get on the job. And I think that's what made the job so special. Right. Because you earned the shit out of it. Right. Nothing was given to you. And even when you became a trialman and you spent that year on there, they didn't give you your badge. You earned it. Like you earned it the whole way through.
So through Fire Academy, so maybe you've already answered this question, but through Fire Academy, what is the biggest lesson learned outside of fireman work? Outside of how to break down a door or save somebody, what's the biggest lesson learned?
Within the fire service?
No, in life.
Oh, in life is just, if you want something and you want something bad enough, you're going to do what it takes to get there. Never, ever, ever go through life and think that somebody owes it to you or that somebody's going to give you something, because they're not. Nobody's going to give you anything. You got to go out there and earn it.
Yep.
And not take it. You got to earn it.
And I've always said similar to that, like you better enjoy the process. Mm-hmm. You can set a goal, but the reward better not be the goal, because the process is what you need to follow every single day for 6 months, 6 years, 60 years to get to that goal, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's what you better like, because that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Showing up every day.
I love the process. And if you know me enough, you'll see that I take the process. I love the process, and I kind of get to my goal, and then I'm off to something else. And I love to build and do whatever. Right. I love that process.
Okay. So fire department.
Fire department's going great. I switched a couple times. So whenever you switch a department, your seniority goes back to 0. So when you start somewhere, it doesn't matter if you have 10 years somewhere else and you get on another department, you're a trialman again. And until you go through your probation and things like that. So that set you back a little bit. I was probably doing this, I think 16 years before we moved. So we were on the department, and it's bittersweet. So you get to where a lot of the fire department and the fire service is medical based, and we would run paramedic engines. And so we had at least one medic on the engine, and then we were backed up by a private EMS company. Most of the runs were medical runs, and we were starting to dabble. The department was starting to dabble to get ambulances and transport and stuff like that. That wasn't my gig. Right. Like I wanted to go into burning buildings. I wanted to fight fire. That was my passion. And so it got to a point where I was kind of getting burned out on going on the medical runs and stuff like that. And it came to a decision. We came to a fork in the road. And my wife, Nicole, her job was taking off. And this was during the downturn. So it kind of started in 2008. We went to 2009. Things are kind of getting rough. She's a little outlier in Michigan, because the company that she works at, they're located in New York and San Francisco and here in Charlotte. So, we were going through, she didn't know if she was going to have a job, not have a job, what the opportunities were going to be for her. And then there's me. And so I had my thing. I started my thing early. I got on the fire department, and we decided, I told her, I was like, this is your time. I'll come down to Charlotte and I'll get on the fire department down here in Charlotte. And so we made that decision to move, for me to quit my job on the fire department, and for her to throw her hat in and say, it's your time. It's your time to move. Right. And so neither of us are selfish people when it comes to the success of each other. And we're, like I said, we're very supportive. And we never looked back from moving from Michigan to Charlotte. It was kind of that whole thing of, you're going to burn the boats. Right. Like, I'm not going back. One, I'm not going back because 90% of the people back in Michigan think that we're stupid and this is never going to work. And I can't believe that they're doing this. That was probably one thing. But then the other thing was, it was a process again. Right. It was a new process. We were learning something.
When it seems like you have pretty solid conviction in your decisions once you're there. I mean, look, you made the decision to leave Florida, go.
Yep.
And it doesn't sound like you ever look back.
No, very rarely do I. Once we close a chapter, very rarely do we look back on it. It's kind of keep moving forward.
That's a great way. Our conversation before this, I don't have a lot of regrets because I don't like to look back, because you made the decision. You have to deal with what's in front of you today, not with the decision you may have made, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's stay in the fire department right now before we get down to Charlotte. So what was your favorite job within the fire department? And I don't mean like I liked this unit better than that unit, or like, did you like being the cook? Did you like washing the truck? Did you like, you tell me, I don't know. I don't know these jobs. I mean, I have no idea what they are.
I didn't mind cooking. I cooked most of the time that I was there, which kind of helped me later in life. I didn't mind cooking. I wanted to be tailboard on the truck or tailboard on the engine. So a lot of times you've got engines, you've got rescues. Rescue was good too. And then you've got your ladder truck. A lot of times the ladder truck is up for outside aerial operations or search, so they go in and they're performing a search. The engine is your initial attack. Boom. That's where you're dropping the lines and you're firefighting. And so that was my thing. I loved it. Dirtier, the better. It was probably actually good that I left the fire department because, there was the safety. And I was one of those where I want to be dirty and grimy. And now, all those toxins, they're just cancer causing, nasty.
Right.
But I loved fighting fire. I had just a passion for it. And I remember my axe. So the pickhead axe, that's my favorite tool. I use that all the time. I like to break things, and hotter the better. I had an amazing crew of guys that were still best friends to this day. And when you talk about a brotherhood on the department, the department was big, and I'm still friends with a lot of people on there or acquaintances, but there was a crew that I worked with day in, day out that they're my best friends. And we worked so well together that we didn't even have to ask each other what we were doing.
Right.
Boom. We went and did it, and teamwork. And I love it.
So I don't know the answer to this question, and I may be out of line asking it. So if I am, we'll just move on. But is there a day or an event that you stood there and were like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is terrifying, or this is beyond frightening. We're all going to die. Like, for lack of a better word. Like, was there any event like that? Anything that happened?
No.
Okay.
No. I would go through those periods if we had different medicals. Like if there was trauma and a car accident and it was flipped over and this was over here and that was over there and people were laying around here. I would go through this. It would take me a second, and I'm like, how am I going to help these people? And what am I going to do? And that would take me a second. But on firefighting in those operations, it was just, I would go into this mode to where we're going to take care of the job, not recklessly. Mm-hmm. We weren't putting ourselves into, what we would call in harm's way. I just knew it. For some reason, that has been the only job where I instinctively knew how to do it. And it was exciting. So was there an incident or time or event that you were like, this is why I'm here? Yeah. I mean, you have those events on the job, and I've had those events off the job. And I think the job and the medical thing prepared me. We were at a Lifetime Fitness, and this was back in Michigan. And for some reason that day, I left my buds at home or whatever. So I didn't have any music on. And I was working out, and there's a sound that I heard, somebody like gasp or something, and which kind of was like, oh, what's going on? And then I heard the alarm, like when you take the AED out of its little holder at the bigger gyms and different things like that, it starts an alarm that goes off. So then all of a sudden I was like, well, what the hell's going on? And I went over there, and this guy's laying on the ground, and he was younger. He was younger than we are right now. I think he was in his early 40s or late 30s. And I was trying to kind of evaluate what the hell's going on, because this isn't normal. Did you just pass out? Did you, just have a seizure or whatever? And I'm trying to ask people around me. And there was another fireman there, and there were a couple nurses. And I said, let's get the pads on him. Let's see what's going on. Boom, boom. Because I can keep my calm.
Right.
I just go down, and we're going to work. And I put the pads on him, and AEDs are amazing machines. So I hit the analyze button. It goes through it, hands off, and it says shock advised. And I was like, oh, okay, this isn't good. And so I hit the shock. It shocked him. And I think we had to shock him one other time, and we checked, we had pulses back. And by the time the fire department got there, loaded the guy up, he was talking to us. And I was like, that's what it's all about.
Right.
And then away they go, and I'm going back to workout. And it's kind of like you have those feelings, after you get in a fight, right. And all of a sudden the adrenaline dump. And I got to meet him, I think it was like 6 months later, because it happened in the city where I started on the volunteer fire department. So I knew the fire guys that came there.
Right.
And that was awesome. I don't have a lot of bad moments. I do have stuff where kids and some adults, weird, crazy calls that I still think of, and I can still think of them this day. But those are really good ones that stick in my mind.
Right. So that's amazing stuff. And I knew from, knowing Rob all these years now that we would be able to talk passionately about the fire department. And I wanted to kind of get that to come through because, the next part of the story is you come to Charlotte. Mm-hmm. You quit the fire department and come down to Charlotte. And from a grit standpoint, it is not an easy decision to leave something that you are so passionate about, to invest in, your family life. I know you and Nicole support each other. She's your light that shines through for you. So I know that part's not hard, but the physical act of leaving something you are so dedicated to is a gritty thing, is a hard thing. So you leave Detroit, leave the fire department, come down here. And then? So I left the Detroit area. I was on the fire department was Sterling Heights that I was on. Okay. And so then we moved here. And like I said, the whole thing was all we were going to do is move here. I was going to get back on the fire department and go to Charlotte. At that point, Nicole had to go into Uptown every single day. And the traffic out here is crazy. So she would leave, let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning, but she wouldn't get home until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So she would kind of miss the traffic both ways. But now we have a second grader and a fourth grader. And so wonderful ages,
and so I made the decision that I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. And so
that is what year?
That was in 2011. I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. And you want to talk about, you're going from the fire department where all these guys, man, I'm such a manly man, and I'm the breadwinner, and I do this, and my wife doesn't work, and my wife stays at home and takes care of the kids, and da-da-da. So I had that. And not even from the people around the fire department, people that lived around here and kind of met me. And I would always get and this was good, that I'm, as strong as I am to be able to handle this. And the fire department trained me quite well. that, they would, did Nikki say that you could buy that today? Did she give you?
I've never said that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Did she give you her allowance? Did Nikki say it was okay for you to leave? But that's, that was because it was new. This stay-at-home dad thing was new. And I'm so glad I did it, and hopefully my daughter and my son will be able to see that it's not just the male that is the breadwinner and does this. It can be the wife, it can be the female. It can, it's a give and take in the relationship. So I stayed at home.
And I mean, you went from a very rewarding but high stress job
to even a higher stress job.
To even a higher stress job, but with a very different kind of reward.
Mm-hmm.
That can be very mentally taxing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not, I think a lot of people we obviously poke fun at you and make fun of you and say, did Nikki let you out today and that kind of thing. But there's a mental aspect to that, to be able to say, this is the best thing for me and my family right now, that, is an amazing thing. I want to say I recognize it.
Yeah.
That it's not just as easy to say, I've retired at 34 and I'm just going to, live the high life from here on out. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to take that step from something you are so passionate about and say, this is the best thing for us right now, and follow through on it.
Yeah. And that's what it was. It's not like, I grew up and wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, as a parent, the fruits of what you've done are not going to show up until they're 25 years old, 26, 27, right?
Right.
They're not immediate. And if they are immediate, then I would probably question that I wasn't hard enough on them. And I was not hard on them, but I kept them in line. And I don't know, some days, you struggle to where, like, did I F my kids up?
Right.
Did I mess them up? Are they this? And you just I gotta hope that we didn't. And, it is what it is, but that was something so new to me. And I think it was new to Nicole too, like raising kids. And they don't teach you. They'll put you to the fire academy to learn how to fight fires, and they'll send you to school for business school. But you want to raise a kid? Boom.
Yeah.
Go do it.
All of a sudden you can have one for free.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's
so that was interesting. Right. That was an interesting journey. I enjoyed it. There was a couple times that I thought I was going to go back to the fire department.
Yeah, I remember those times, but I think you settled, you'd have to give me the exact time frame, but you settled your path wanted to be towards real estate. Yeah.
So eventually, and this is where it comes in where, as a parent, you're just kind of there to make sure that they, wake up and go to school on time and set an example for them. My daughter was in, I want to say it was her first year in college. So it was about 3.5 years ago. And it got to a point where the kids were kind of on their own, and I needed to start using, my brain again for something else. Like, I was sitting around too much. Nicole was traveling a lot, and it was just kind of me. So I thought, well, what can I do that is a good career and will allow me to still be at home and, and still be present. And so, I liked real estate, and I liked, the different things. And I talked to people, and I decided, well, I'm going to go and get my real estate license. So I went to school, got my license, and I went to work at Keller Williams. I lasted there for about a year, and it was good. It was good coming up. I met some good people, but I'm a little more of a kind of individual. I like I like getting with people and talking and masterminding. I don't like the song and dance of a lot of, corporate meetings and stuff like that.
You don't need to sit at the water cooler and talk about your kid's soccer game.
And I just don't need the rock band rah-rah stuff.
Yep.
And you get that in a lot of these organizations. Right? They're firing you up.
You don't need cheerleaders.
Don't need cheerleaders.
That's right.
And I wanted something that was I could kind of do on my own, and I wanted it to be more of a boutique style to where I don't want to sell 40 houses a year. I just don't. That was not my thing. I don't want this job to overtake my life. And a lot of times realtors, they're in this and they get fed this lie that they have to be on 24/7. Like I'm open 24/7. Whose job do you really want that's 24/7?
Right.
Nobody wants a job. So I kind of I set out to get what I wanted to get, and was to take care of my clients really well. Be able to focus on them, and when things were bad, I could take care of it and we could work together. And it's been, when we talk about patience and we talk about building things, I was very passionate about the way that I wanted to do it. And I feel like I've kind of succeeded. I don't cold call people. I really don't bug you. If you get a card from me, there's intent behind that. I'm not just farming out for people just to get people's business. I want to attract.
I remember I don't remember the specific house or seller or buyer, but I remember having lunch one day and you getting off the phone and you were talking about, this is very early on. I think you were still with Keller Williams at the time. You were very passionate about the person needs to do the right thing. Like this is, and I remember thinking to myself, like, he's going to make it at this because he cares. Mm-hmm. And that's going to come through to the people who he works with, which will then carry through to the next person that he works with because they will recommend him on and on. So,
yeah, that was one of the things, coming up and people helping me and guiding me. And when you first get into this business, you want to say yes to everything.
Right.
Because you just want that first sale. You want that first person. You want to say yes to everything. And they were like, that's okay, but it's not going to be a longevity game. Not for me. So they're like, you're trying to build who you are and you work with people that are like you.
Right.
So my biggest fear, again, is through CrossFit and the people I've met through CrossFit. And people are like, oh, I'll never work with a friend. I've worked exclusively, probably 85% of my business, people that I know. And I think throughout that whole thing, I've probably had one bad experience.
Right.
But I always kind of go back to me that I didn't set the right expectations.
Sure.
Now I set a crap load of expectations.
Sure. So I think it's worth noting that your story seems to involve a lot of conviction and decision in a decision, not conviction in decision, conviction in a decision, passion behind what you're doing, and then the process. Mm-hmm. It's getting you to a very successful part of your career. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a pretty good story for yourself.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, never in a million years would if you would have asked me, 30 years ago, where do you want to be? And we didn't, Nicole and I, and probably you, we didn't have vision boards and we didn't have all this stuff, and not that there's a bad thing because people probably need that. We just worked and we worked hard and we just kept improving. I had Nate Poole was on my show and he said, I want to try to teach my kids and myself and my wife to get 1% better every single day. And, I repeat that every morning. And whether that be going to the gym, or guitar or work. And we've just tried to get 1% better every day. And you're going to slip like probably the past 6 months. I haven't been going to the gym like I was supposed to. I haven't been playing my guitar like I was supposed to. Work has still been good because I can let myself down. I don't want to let other people down.
Right.
So, but I knew I had to get back to my routine, and I did. I've gotten back to it, and it changes your outlook on everything, and just that filling your head with more positivity as opposed to negativity. People can laugh at it and they can say that's a bunch of bunk, but it's not. It like buries down into your subconscious, and all of a sudden you just think about that, and that's the way you go through life.
Correct. That's right.
I mean, it's amazing.
That's right. So from a personal side, I know you're passionate about the fire department. I also know you're passionate about the Western United States.
Love it.
So how did that come about?
It's funny because my parents and Nicole's parents, they're not outdoors people. They don't go anywhere. They go on cruises and go here and there, but they were never passionate about the outdoor. And for some reason, Nicole and I, we went on our honeymoon. We were going to go, we're like, I don't know if we saw a book at the place and it had hikes. Let's go hiking. So we started hiking, and then started more hiking and more hiking. And then eventually we've had the opportunity to go out west, and it's just amazing. And something about the mountains, like me and the mountains, I love them. I love being in them, in the woods. I love looking at them. I don't mind a beach. Like I'll go and I'll enjoy, when we went down to Florida and we went fishing and stuff like that. And that was fun. But for some reason out west in the mountains, whether it be in the high desert, Red Rock Mountains, or in more of the pine trees, or into the Rockies, like all of it.
You need to find that place to connect, right? I mean, if you're going to work in business, you're going to work hard, you've got to also find that place to connect. For me, it's the ocean. Mm-hmm. Like I just feel at home there. As soon as I touch the water, I am at peace, at ease. For you, I know it's the mountains. I know it's the outside. And I think it's also adventure.
Yeah, I love yep.
Like I don't ever remember you saying, we just went and got a cabin and sat there for 3 days.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you'll know, just like we're planning another bike trip, and I can't go on the same one. Like I got to go.
Right.
I need to go see something else.
Even though it would be a completely different trip.
Completely different.
But you cannot find yourself at the same spot.
Right. And we'll go to different little cities here and there, but very rarely do we ever venture back somewhere twice. I mean, the amount of scenery and places to go just right here in the U.S.
Right here in North Carolina.
And in North Carolina,
yes.
Like Western North Carolina. You can go over there for days and explore and get out of here. Get out of here in Charlotte, and you're 3.5 hours to the far west of the state, and you're 3.5 hours to the coast, and get out of this little bubble. People don't have enough me time.
That's right.
Connect time. It's not always a hustle. You don't always have to hustle. You don't always have to side gig. You don't always, because there's things that you're missing. You're missing enjoyment and connectivity with your spouse, and you're missing that, if you have kids and stuff like that, because they're only here for, you see it. Jack is growing up. I just dropped Robert off at college on Friday. He was the last one. And you're like, oh man, I'm an empty nester. It's a little quiet.
Right.
I used to sit and hear, I could hear him because his room was right up above my office, and you could hear it move in his bed. And yeah, it was probably like 2 PM, but whatever, they were still here.
So do you have anything else you want to tell the people of the world who are going to listen to this podcast?
I was just thinking about this today, and the reason that I'm doing the podcast is not for, I'm not selling anything, right? I always feel like there's so many people out there with a story to tell. And whether the story is of success in business, whether it's success in accomplishing something, whether it's tragedy and coming out of tragedy, whether it's success, then tragedy, and then rebuilding, there's so many good stories out there of people. And, I really enjoy the opportunity to talk to people about it. Like I like doing real estate and I like selling real estate, but I really like to talk to people.
This is good. This has been fun. I'm glad I got to interview you.
I know, this was great. This was right out of the blue. You caught me off guard.
Yes. I thought about it when Kara set the date up. I was like, you know what? I don't think anybody's ever interviewed Rob, and his story is definitely worth telling.
I know. I told her, I was like, because I was kind of backing her up. And Kara is my assistant, which I love her.
She's amazing.
And I kind of backed her up because we went through the holidays, and this session's right now, and she's got to edit it tonight and fire it up tomorrow. I was like, we could take a couple weeks off. And she's probably like, yeah, okay.
Thank goodness.
I got something coming on.
Right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. This was fun.
Good.
You got anything else for me?
No, I'm good.
Shock me.
Behind this door, this is your life.
Holy shit. Don't press
It's your first girlfriend.
Yes. Oh my God. Don't touch that button. All right. Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Beyond Grit with your host, me, Robert Young. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and review. Tell somebody about it. You can find this podcast on all major podcast platforms, and be sure to tune in every Wednesday for another exciting success story of somebody going beyond grit. Until then, take care.